everyone, and welcome to GovTake 5, a video series where we set aside a few minutes to hear subject matter experts speak on key topics impacting our government and public sector clients around the world. My name is Satya Ramamurthy, and I'm KPMG's Global Co-Head of Public Transport, and I'm based in Singapore. Today, I'm joined by my colleague and fellow co-head, Ed Thomas, who is based in London. And we will be discussing the impact of COVID and the post-COVID developments on public transport in two cities, London and Singapore. Literally a tale of two cities. As you know, COVID has presented many challenges, and one of the big ones has been really its impact on public transport ridership, a goal which was really driven very, very positively by a number of transport operators in raising public transport modal share has been significantly affected during the pandemic. For example, in Singapore, during the height of the pandemic, the traffic came down to almost 10% of pre-pandemic levels. But overall, it was a significant drop. Ed, what have you seen in London?
Well, similar to as you had in Singapore, we had a kind of 90% drop in usage at the start of the pandemic. Things have started to pick up since our sort of vaccination program kicked in. So looking at the latest figures, bus use in London is around 80% of where it was prior to the pandemic. However, it's a bit lower on other modes. So it's 73%, I think, on rail and about 65% on the underground. I mean, what's interesting actually is the recovery in London has been slower than in other UK cities. So mobile phone data shows that activity in the city centres is around 75% of where it was pre-pandemic in places like Manchester and Birmingham, but only about 50% in London.
Interesting. And in fact, in Singapore, we found that the pattern and the character of the journeys has shifted from much longer corridor to corridor journeys from point to point. They've become much shorter journeys, but the number of journeys has picked up and come back. So one of the big questions as a result of this has really been that public transport viability has been challenged significantly. In the best of times, the MRT and the bus system was not exactly commercially in the pink of health. However, during COVID, we have seen significant pressure on finances of both the operators as well as the government as the master bus franchisor or the contractor of the bus system. However, there have been attempts to raise fares. Singapore has one of the lowest fares in the world for relative level of quality, but we have seen that this has not been easy. There's been a small fare hike, but there's still a long way to go. And over the last probably 8 or 10 years, there's been requirement for significant renewals and upgrades because of the aging network, which has brought its own challenges in terms of cost. We also see the desire for the operators to go overseas in really building their overall business. So the two largest local operators have begun to both build overseas businesses as a way of addressing some of the challenges in a small market. How has it been in London?
Well, big financial pressures in London. So Transport for London is pretty unique in that it was kind of self-funding pre the pandemic, but obviously that's changed with the big reduction in revenue, and TfL has been getting emergency support from government. It's also had to take measures in order to try and improve its financial position. So that's included increasing the congestion charge and applying it for longer hours, increasing council tax to fund travel concessions for the elderly and for young people, and also some reduction in services. So TfL's cut bus services by 4% and has looked at cutting sort of off-peak underground services. It's also sort of delayed or suspended some of its big capital programme. So the pandemic's had a really big hit on public transport finances in London, and really it'd be interesting to see over the next 18 months whether the last sort of 20 to 30% of people come back, because if they don't, then that's going to need some quite tough decisions to work through.
Interesting, because you talked about some of those lines extensions being pushed back. Singapore, in fact, for other reasons, had a problem with labor, because our labor is all imported, quite a lot of the labor. And during the pandemic, the workers couldn't come out, and they were quarantined, and the workforce, some of them went back. So it was an issue with securing a lot of the construction workforce. The other interesting area with regard to Singapore's transport system is the unique role of private vehicles, or at least the private transport system, in funding much of the public transport through expensive pricing for cars. And you would probably know that to get a mid-series of a luxury vehicle would cost easily $500,000. And it's through those taxes and what is called a certificate of entitlement to get the private car on the road. Singapore has had a very successful journey with driving modal shift to public transport. And of course, then funding, using those taxes to fund the wider transport ecosystem.
So as I said, in London, they're looking at potentially increasing the congestion charge over the longer term, and charges for emissions as well. So that will be part of the funding solution, I'm sure.
But all of this, Ed, surely opens up a lot of opportunities for us to serve our clients much better. And I just want to explore with you some of those areas. For example, operating model transformation. I mean, a lot of changes are taking place with the structures and with the contracts. What's happening in decarbonization with all of the push towards electrifying the fleets and the transport system. What are you seeing in terms of data and analytics? What are you seeing in London?
Yeah, so I think there'll be a big pressure on TfL to sort of improve the efficiency of its operating model. So that would be sort of workforce reform, digitization, automation of processes. And then, as you said, I think the switch in balance towards focusing on decarbonisation during this period of uncertainty is probably where our opportunity is to support them. I think the connected model is going to have more resonance as people go forward, and they've got to look at digitisation and a technology as a way of giving sort of greater efficiency in how they do things.
Our public transport professionals are going to have a really exciting time working with our clients to solve these really exciting problems and challenges. And we look forward to working with them over the next few years. And I just want to say thank you to Ed, and it's been a real pleasure that we've had this opportunity to chat about London and Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you, Satya.